Welcome to The Deep Dive, the show where we explore the powerful ideas hiding in plain sight. Today we have something truly extraordinary. It's a 17-page document uploaded online titled W.W.W.J.D, question mark, by a man named James Perez.
Hello, Alex. It's a privilege to discuss this. That title is immediately our first and perhaps most important clue.
Right.
It takes a phrase that for millions represents a kind of moral certainty, what would Jesus do, and completely inverts it with those two stark question marks.
So it transforms a declaration of faith into a question of profound, almost desperate seeking.
Yes.
And it's not a guide, it's a logbook of a search. And to help us navigate this complex psychological territory, we have clinical psychologist Dr. Anya Sharma with us.
Hi, Alex.
Anya, what was your initial, your clinical impression when you first read this?
Honestly, Alex, my first thought was that I was reading something intensely private.
Okay.
Something that perhaps wasn't meant for public consumption. It felt like an unedited transcript of a late-night therapy session or maybe a journal left open on a desk.
Wow.
And Perez seems to know this. On the very last page, he writes, and I want to get this exactly right.
Yeah.
He writes, "Since you have picked this book up, you should know the man who wrote it is delusional. Most of all, this is a dangerous book."
That dangerous book line is so arresting.
It is.
From your perspective, what makes a text like this potentially dangerous?
Well, the danger isn't in the ideas themselves, but in the rawness of the process.
The process, right?
The great existential psychotherapist Irvin Yalom wrote extensively about the courage required to face life's ultimate concerns: death, isolation, freedom, meaninglessness.
All the big ones.
Exactly. Perez is wrestling with all of them in real time on the page. The danger he's warning about is for the reader who isn't prepared to look at their own existential dread. And crucially, it's also a danger for himself. This level of solitary self-excavation is a psychological tightrope walk without a net.
A tightrope walk without a net. That's a powerful image. Let's get into the specifics of that walk. The document is structured as a series of call and response prompts.
Yeah.
He'll write a word like darkness, and then his response is, "I'll be the light. I know how dark it can get. I'll go with you."
This is a perfect, almost textbook example of what the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung called shadow work.
Shadow work, okay.
The shadow, in Jungian terms, contains all the parts of ourselves we repress, we deny, or are ashamed of.
Right.
And Jung famously argued that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. So Perez isn't trying to vanquish his darkness. He's offering to go with it, to be its companion. That's just a courageous act of integration.
He approaches pain with that same unflinching gaze. On page 14, it's a dialogue with himself. Sit with your pain. You mean focus on the pain? It sucks. Worth every second. And then he concludes, the pain is worth the outcome. This feels so central to the entire document.
Absolutely. This is where I see the unmistakable ghost of Viktor Frankl.
Viktor Frankl, wow.
As a psychiatrist who survived the Holocaust, he developed logotherapy, which posits that our primary drive isn't pleasure, as Freud thought, but the discovery and pursuit of meaning.
Right, finding meaning.
Exactly. Frankl wrote, "In some ways, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds a meaning."
Yeah.
Perez is performing logotherapy on himself. He's desperately trying to find the meaning, the outcome that makes the pain worth it.
But then there's a line on page 9 that just stops you cold. It's pain. I love you.
Yeah.
What do we do with that? Clinically, is that a step forward or is that a step into something more troubling?
That is the million-dollar question, and it's where this tightrope really starts to sway. We can look at this through the work of Dr. Kristen Neff, who is a leading researcher in self-compassion. From one perspective, saying, "I love you" to your pain is an act of radical self-kindness.
Okay.
You're ceasing the internal war. You're accepting a difficult, painful part of yourself with warmth instead of judgment.
So that's the supportive view.
Yes.
What's the critical take?
The critical take is that this can border on what we might call a trauma identity or a romanticization of suffering.
A trauma identity, okay.
Yeah, it's the point where you stop having pain and you start being your pain. The risk is building your entire sense of self around the wound.
Right.
And without a therapist there to provide a mirror, it's incredibly difficult to distinguish between I am accepting my pain and I am my pain.
And that ambiguity is everywhere. He writes, I'm not a smart man. Haha. Is that genuine humility or is it internalized shame?
Exactly.
It's so hard to tell, and it all seems to circle back to one source. The dedication is our biggest clue. Dedicated to my brother Eddie and to a voice I never listened to.
That dedication is the Rosetta Stone for this entire document.
Wow.
It reframes the whole project as an act of grief and perhaps of atonement. And here, the work of Dr. Gabor Mate is essential. Mate teaches that trauma isn't the bad thing that happens to you, but what happens inside you as a result of it.
Ooh, that's interesting.
It's a psychic wound that disrupts your ability to be present. The fragmented, nonlinear style of this writing, jumping from belief to temptation to a memory, that's the language of trauma. It shatters a linear narrative.
So the act of writing, of putting these fragments down, is an attempt to piece that narrative back together.
Precisely. It's an attempt at what the neuroscientist Dr. Dan Siegel calls integration.
Integration.
Siegel's work shows that mental health is a function of integrating different, often conflicting parts of the brain and mind.
Right.
Perez is taking these fragmented thoughts and feelings, and by writing them down, he is literally linking them. He's trying to weave a new, more coherent story for himself.
And he also explicitly brings the body into it. The phrase body, soul, mind appears multiple times.
Yeah.
Once it's even followed by pain. I love you.
And that is another incredibly insightful and, I would say, modern element of his journey. He intuitively understands what experts like Bessel van der Kolk, who authored The Body Keeps the Score, and Peter Levine have spent their careers proving. So that trauma stored physiologically. It's in our nervous system.
Wow.
So when Perez repeats body, soul, mind, he's fighting to bridge that mind-body chasm that trauma creates. He's trying to bring his felt physical experience into the story he's trying to rewrite.
Just an unbelievable confluence of psychological theory, all happening organically within one person's private struggle.
It is.
But let's return to the criticism, to that danger. We've established this is a solo journey. So what are the specific psychological risks?
The primary risk is what psychologists call rumination.
Rumination.
It's the difference between processing and just spinning. When you're alone with your trauma, it's so easy to get stuck in a feedback loop, just reliving the pain without ever moving through it.
Yeah.
You see flashes of that risk here. Is he finding meaning in his pain, or is he just staring into the abyss until it becomes his entire world? That's the tightrope.
And he seems terrifyingly aware of this. That final warning, if you can't look at yourself and say, I know everything, now it's time to listen. Don't continue. You'll despise me, hate me, or worse, give me space inside your mind.
That, to me, is the most brilliant and ethically self-aware part of the entire text.
Really?
He's saying that this work is contagious. He understands that his own unresolved pain, his raw, unprocessed trauma, can be projected onto the reader and take up residence in their mind.
Wow.
It's a profound act of responsibility. He's essentially saying, I am showing you my open wound, but please be careful, for both our sakes. It's a cry for a witness, but a clear warning that witnessing has a cost.
So in the end, this document that starts with a question about what a divine, perfect figure would do, it becomes a testament to the messy, painful, and deeply human work of figuring out what to do when you're all alone.
Yeah.
With no guide but your own willingness to finally listen.
Exactly. It's a journey from seeking an external savior to attempting to become your own.
Right.
Exactly. It's a journey from seeking an external savior to attempting to become your own.
Right. Now, here's a question we'd like you to think about. The author dedicated this raw and dangerous work to a voice I never listened to. What is one voice in your own life, whether it's an emotion, a memory, or another person, that you have been avoiding listening to? And what do you fear might happen if you finally did?